Greetings and welcome. I have been back from the National a couple days now, and I wanted to share my experiences, thoughts, and the cool stuff I got. This was my fourth National, and I have done them all in Rosemont, but this is the first National recap video I've ever done. And throughout the show, I was really kind of thinking how I was going to do the video. Originally, I thought I'd break it up and do like several videos, but kind of thought it'd be like beating a dead horse by the time I showed my fourth video on items I bought. So this is going to be a much longer video than I normally do. There is one card I am not going to show, and I'm going to do a separate video on that next week. But I figured maybe breaking it down day by day will be the best for what I want to do. So heading to the National, I had a lengthy list of cards I wanted to pursue. I didn't want to get them all, but just something to kind of keep me focused and not blow money on something I really didn't need for my collection. That, and I had a list of athletes I was going to get autographs from. I've done many public signings, but there's only been two that I've been truly excited about, and one was Peyton Manning, and the second I was going to get Friday, and that was Bill Walton. But the Tuesday before the National, Picker Jim S. responded to a comment I left on one of his videos and asked me to email him my phone number, and he'd reach out when he got to the show. I was very thankful for this, so I'd have someone to meet once I got there. Ken's Cardboard was also very welcoming and told me that I could hang with him at the YouTube get together on Thursday night. I just didn't have a number to reach him. But this was the first National that I went for the Wednesday night sneak peek, and I also brought my wife and my kids and kind of made it a family adventure. This would be my daughter's first National and my wife and son's third. But we had a pretty smooth trip up, and I text Jim when I get there. And now I know what he looks like, but I don't show my face on my videos. And the reasoning for that is it's just because of what I do for a living. So I sent him a picture of where I am in line, and he appears, and I introduce myself, and then my wife and my kids to Jim. And he hung out with us in line until I got my VIP passes. And while we were in line, the people behind us recognized Jim and were big fans. And one of my favorite memories was Jim asked the couple, "Hey, this is Andy from Dee's collection. Do you know him?" And they looked at me and they said, "No." And went right back to raving about Jim's channel. I thought that was hilarious. I grabbed my stuff, and then Jim introduced me to Rick from Vintage Oddball Cards and Mark Rudog 21, and I had a great time talking about cards and listening to them. The show opened, and I was on a mission for a certain card. I move pretty quick when I know exactly what I'm looking for, but this card caught my eye, and I've been looking for this for a while, and it is the 86 Flair rookie at Charles Barkley. I had a price that I thought I'd pay, and the sticker was $100 under that. I asked if I could see it, and I thought about it, and I was going to come back because I usually don't buy the first thing that I see. I handed it back to the dealer, and he's like, "This is a pretty nice looking 8, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I'm instantly in my mind, it's like, well, I'm not going to get this any lower because he's already talking it up. And then he goes, "I can take $50 more off." So now I'm $150 lower than the price in my head. So I said, might as well, and I made my first purchase. The show was crazy hot. We were in the middle of the heat wave, and I'm sure the AC was on, but with the heat and that many people, it didn't feel like it. I was about done with the first day and a little disappointed as I covered a lot of ground and didn't see what I was looking for. I saw one section I hadn't glanced at, and boom, there was a card I had coveted for the National, which will be the card I show in my next video. I was so thrilled with these two cards, I honestly could have driven home that night, but I called my wife and she was over by Autograph Pavilion, so I headed over that way. I got in a short line for my autograph tickets and then took the family to dinner. Thursday morning arrives. I get in the VIP line to get into the show, and we're sandwiched in between a father and a son from Minnesota and two guys from Austria. And we all just had a blast talking for an hour before the show started. The guys from Austria, it was their first time ever in the United States, and they only came to the United States for the National. I thought that was pretty interesting. The father and son were just great people. He and my wife have the same profession, so they had a great time talking business. And he collects very similar to how I do, so we gave each other tips on where stuff was. But collection-wise, Thursday was kind of a rough day. I bought the main piece I wanted already, and there's always one day I kind of get wishy-washy on what I want to buy. I had a list, but I was really indecisive. I spent most of the day walking the floor, and on the bright side, I ran into John Mangini and was able to meet him for the first time. I did, though, get to meet Mike Schmidt and got his autograph on a ball, and he was in a better mood than what normally people say he is. So that was refreshing. And I also added this really cool Larry Bird card. 82-83 Indiana State Larry Bird Sycamore Rampage. And on the back you can kind of see it's a Kids and Police. But it was handed out at an Indiana State game. I have never seen one before. So I really wasn't sure about the price or anything. I saw it Thursday night or Wednesday night and went back and got it Friday after kind of doing some research on it. And checking the pop report on PSA and SGC, it seems like there's been less than 100 graded, so I was pretty pumped to buy it. I also ran into Mark Rudog 21 again, and at this point we believe we were staying at the same hotel. And I asked him if I could maybe get a ride back from the YouTube get-together and possibly a ride there, since my wife was going to take my kids to go do something. And Mark, being the great guy he is, said absolutely. So Mark sends me a text, and he said he'd pick me up in about 5 minutes, and then he's like, hey, I'm parked in the back, so I'll pull up front. I'm in the lobby, and I kind of look around my hotel, and I see in the back there's a patio and a river. No parking. So I call him, and I'm like, hey, you're at the Marriott, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, there's no parking behind the hotel. He's like, yeah, there is. So come to find out, we're at different Marriotts. By now, though, my wife is gone, and I didn't really want to walk a mile in the heat. But again, Mark is really cool. He's like, hey, I'll pick you up anyway, which I still can't thank him enough. We get to the YouTube get-together, and the first person I see is Ken from Ken's Cardboard. And he graciously gave me this stack of St. Louis Cardinals cards. And there was even a Nolan Arenado, which is my son's favorite baseball player, so he was really excited when I showed him. Met a lot of great people there, like Scott of Stooks, Scott from Reindeer Studios, who gave me those great-looking cards that he painted. And they fit perfectly into those frames that the VIP passes had. So that's a nice little memento for me. And many, many more people that I apologize I'm not coming up with right now. But it turns to Friday, which is Bill Walton Day. I get up, put on my St. Louis Cardinals tie-dye shirt to prepare, and I carefully pack out my 1976 Sports Illustrated that I'm going to get him to get autographed. I took the family for donuts, and after breakfast, I get to the car to drive to the parking garage, and the song Scarlet Begonias comes on the radio. And I tell my wife, what a perfect song and a sign that it's going to be a great day, hearing this hours before I meet Walton. Walking in, though, we run into that father and son again I referenced earlier, and my son and him are even wearing the same Milwaukee Bucks Giannis shirt. I had the pleasure of sitting with them again, discussing the day's goals and life in general. One of the greatest parts of the National is just talking to fellow collectors. This guy doesn't make YouTube videos, but like me, he comes to every other National. We had a ton in common and just spent hours together just randomly. I'll probably never see him again, unless the stars align and I see him in 2 years at the National again. But, who knows? But it's funny how collecting brings people together. The show opens up and I'm looking to make another big purchase. I had an idea of what I wanted, but had to move through the tables to see if I could find a better option. I did make a very quick purchase once I got there, and it was this 1935 Diamond Stars of Jim Bottomley. And I was pretty confident what card I was gonna buy after I got that. I shoot my dad a text. He thought it was a great choice and he liked the price, but he said to negotiate it. Then I thought I should text Jim, and I end up meeting him, and he was with Huck Sports Cards. We talk about it, and Jim says, you want us to go work the deal with you? And I was like, yeah, I'd love that. And we get there, I show him the card, and Huck Sports Cards is like, oh, yeah, these guys are from where I'm from. I know the owner. And I won't discuss the price, but either him or Jim shoot out a number, and they accepted. And the funny thing was, Jim and I each give each other kind of a side-eye look, and the dealer sees it, and he says, I should be charging you $50 more just because of that look. But here's the card, and it's the 1948 Bowman Stan Musial rookie, which I was really thrilled as a Cardinal fan to add the Musial rookie. So I'm having a great day. I got my Musial purchase, and I head over to Autograph Pavilion to wait for Bill Walton. My son was able to do kind of a kid's break at the Panini booth, and my wife is trying to hurry because I really wanted my son to meet Bill Walton. Plus, my wife saw the 30 for 30 on Walton and wanted to meet him as well. But I grab a seat, I see his name on the screen, I'm excited, and I'm just taking it all in. Then all of a sudden, his name is off the screen. So I asked a TriStar employee, and he gave the devastating news that Walton had to cancel. And I'm defeated. The high I was on from the Musial card is gone. My wife calls me and says they're on their way, and I was like, don't bother, he's not even here. TriStar tells me I get my money back, but they wanted me to stand in the autograph line, which was just crazy long at this point because it's already about 11 o'clock, so people are trying to get their tickets for the day, which I was not thrilled with that. So I'm just walking back to the main floor, and RuDog21 sees me again, and he was like, how was Walton? And he saw some raw emotion of how bummed out I was. And here is there is the Sports Illustrated I was going to get signed. Just Portland's Bill Walton gets it all together. King of the Mountain at last. From December 13th, 1976. They're playing the Indiana Pacers, which is my favorite team. This just absolutely had it all. As you can see, it was not newsstand, but it didn't bother me because it was from my dad's collection and it had his name on it, so I did not care. Just everything about it I really wanted, and still sad about it. But Rudog tries to cheer me up with what he bought, and if you haven't checked out his national recap video, please do, because he got some really cool stuff. But I walked the show a little more and made one more purchase, and it was this 1957 Topps rookie of Bob Pettit. One of the greatest basketball players of all time. Not top 10, but top 20. And I have been looking for this card for a while. The card is notoriously off-centered at the top, and this is a lot better top centering than I have seen on a lot and even higher grade. Plus the card and the colors just pops in the SGC holder. Sometimes the photo gets a little fuzzy. I think the image of Pettit is very, very clean. And honestly, I couldn't even believe the sticker price when I saw it. And the dealer ended up taking $50 more off, which I was in a better mood, but still missing Walton. But Saturday would be the last day of the show for us. We checked out of the hotel, and I had told my wife for weeks the plan for Saturday is to walk the show for about an hour, say goodbye to everyone, get a couple autographs, and we'll leave. I purposely did not get an autograph after 11:45 so we could get home before dinner. The morning starts off right. I corrected a wrong in my collection, and I added this 1971 Topps Stan Mikita. And I paired it with this 1970 Topps Bobby Hull. And I am a big Blackhawks fan, and I did not have either one of those in my collection, and I kind of felt embarrassed I did not have that. So I'm really happy I added those. And kind of continue walking the floor, and this 1961 Fleer Lenny Moore catches my eye. And that is my favorite card of Lenny Moore. So I asked the dealer how much, and then I noticed he had more Baltimore Colts. And he didn't have a price, but he seemed annoyed that I even asked. So he's examining the card, and he throws out an offer, and it's pretty fair. And I wanted to know kind of the price on all of them, and he just seemed like he didn't want to do that kind of work since there was 9 or 10 of them. Which I don't understand why your cards are in a showcase at the National, but you don't have them priced or even have an idea, but, you know, to each their own. So after kind of trying to talk him into more prices, I'm finally like, okay, what's the highest price Colts card? What's the lowest? And I can kind of average and figure out what I'm going to buy. And he kind of hem-hawed around, and his response was, well, how about all of these for such and such dollars? And I'm like, deal. So I'm missing the Unitas, but that's on my want list anyway, so it's no big deal because I've been looking for a 61 Fleer Unitas that I've been wanting to buy. But I ended up getting the Baltimore Colts team set, I mean, again, minus the Unitas, in 8s and 9s for a crazy low price. So the two cards I was kind of asking about right away was the Lenny Moore and Raymond Berry. And I ended up getting the Raymond Berry and Lenny Moore at pretty much market value. And then he threw in the rest of them for pretty much $10 a piece. So I got Big Daddy Lipscomb for an 8. Bill Pellington in an 8. Jim Mutscheller in an 8. Gino Marchetti in an 8. Alan Amici in a 9. Art Donovan in a 9. And Jim Parker in a 9. So, yep, missing the Unitas. They had a 7 there, and I just didn't love the way it looked, so I passed on it. But I'm pretty happy. Still had money to spend and wanted to make one big splash before I left, but it was time to go get Robert Parrish, which I got Parrish. That is a Sports Illustrated. I got a Parrish. I'm glad I brought it because I ended up trading my Walton ticket for him, and I ended up getting some money back. Robert Parrish was really, really cool too. He shook my son and my hand and signed it where I asked him to, and he took a photo with us, even stood up. And he, basketball players, people are tall, but I just feel like basketball players are tall on a whole nother level. And seeing his height, I'm 6'3", he just towers over me, and my son is 7. So I mean, just the height differential of the three of us in the photos, it's fun. But right after the Chief, it was time to meet one of my favorite Cardinals in my lifetime, and that was Scott Rowland, which I got him to sign that ball, and Scott Rowland was pretty cool too. And as I'm looking at it, and I kind of forgot, Friday, I got Tony Perez to sign that ball, and he was a gentleman. He was a pleasure to meet as well. So I've had bummed out on Walton, Parrish, Mike Schmidt, Scott Rowland, Tony Perez, all really, really cool. So doing great with the autographs. And I really limited my autographs this time, really chased more cards than anything. But everything's going to plan. All I need is one last autograph, and that was going to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Now, Jabbar was there for 2 days. He was there Friday and Saturday. And I was stupid enough and thought I'd get it quick and we'll be gone. Then after an hour of waiting, after he started signing on Saturday, I had heard that he had signed for 3.5 hours on Friday and didn't even get to the numbered tickets. Now, what's funny about this was I was on the fence about getting Jabbar because I only got the autograph because of how great he was. I'm not a Jabbar fan, but thought it would be the greatest basketball player that I would ever be able to meet. My wife was the one who kept talking me into it, and because I just wasn't sure if I wanted to spend the money. If you bought his ticket, you only got Abdul-Jabbar signed. You had to buy the inscription to get Kareem, which I thought was ridiculous. So he charged extra just for the name Kareem. The whole process just wasn't normal. And I thought it was just kind of typical Jabbar. But my wife kept reminding me it's Kareem and how much I love the NBA. We're in Chicago. He's in Chicago. We're already there. And I was looking for someone to talk me out of it, and it didn't happen. So I went for it. But now it's past lunch. My kids are starting to be just completely done with the show, which I can't blame them. We go back to the VIP room, grab some sandwiches. Kids had their tablets, and I'm like, let's give it an hour and see. I text Picker Jim S to see where he's at so I can say goodbye in person. I find him and he's talking with one of his friends who, when I walk up, was complaining about Chapar, and he had a ticket which was just 15 spots behind me. By now, though, I went back and checked TriStar, and TriStar informed me that Jabbar wasn't signing at the moment because he was taking a nap. Which I was like, a nap? They're like, yeah, he's got a lot to get through. I'm like, yeah, but he's also, which whatever. But what the thing was like after they call your number, you go into like this corral, and Jabbar just walked off. He left every single person. So there's people who've been waiting hours and hours and are now just feet from getting his autograph. He just leaves them. And he walks off and takes a 90-minute nap. Doesn't like finish the rest of the corral and then comes back and like finishes off the rest. He just leaves people there. So they're like laying and sitting on the floor for an hour and a half, probably wondering and hoping he ever comes back. So I'm talking with Jim, and Andrew from Nuff Said Cards walks up, and he was another great guy. And he ended up talking me. I said I wanted to make one more big splash, and I did not, mostly because the Jabbar wait was just kind of, I was done. But I was looking at an 1887 Allen and Genscher John Montgomery Ward that was graded authentic. And so I showed Andrew, and he's like, and he didn't think it was that great of a deal, and I wasn't sure because I've never bought a authentic card, and I was very appreciative that he talked me out of it. But it's now about 3:30, which was hours after I hoped to leave, and it was about the time I wanted to be home. My wife, who was awesome, was like, I'm fine with staying. We're good. Let's do this. And I was still kind of on the fence. So I'm like, all right, let's go see if he's awake. And if he's not doing the numbers yet, I'm cashing out and going home. And of course, we get there, and it's announced that he'll start doing the numbers at 4 o'clock. TriStar has assured me he'll sign for every single person. They're going to leave the show open late for us. Blah, 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 blah. I run into Jim's buddy, and it's now him, the 4 of my family, and another couple who we met while waiting, and we're just waiting it out. And, there was a lot of talk this would be Jabbar's last show, a lot of rumors, probably never get him again, blah, 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 blah. Let's, 20 years from now, we won't care as much. But fast forward to 6 o'clock at night, and Jabbar walks off with his team again, just leaves. TriStar has no idea what's going on. One guy goes, he's on a 15-minute break, guys, and then another employee yells, I'm not sure how long he's taking. And I think someone just talked Jabbar into finishing this up. There wasn't a ton left. I think Jabbar was done, but it was getting nasty when he walked off with the crowd. Jabbar tells TriStar he's only signing to 7, which is not what TriStar assured me at 3 hours before. So I'm getting upset that I'm not. If they gave me the money, it's the time for me. It wasn't really even the money. They get the money back. By now it is 6 o'clock. I could have been home. I'm patient, but I'm getting frustrated. And TriStar finally gets some kind of order to the signing and gets everyone in the corral. Chimp's friend and I kind of get separated, and I ended up letting 2 people go in front of me. As I said, And they're like, no, 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 just let this guy go. I'm like, no, 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 I'm going to hang with him. I'm going to come back. You guys go first. I said, I've been with this guy for 5 hours and I want to get Jabbar together, or we're not getting Jabbar together. Either way, I've been with him for 5 hours. We're in this together now. But at 6:45, I finally end up getting this signed. Sorry for the terrible camera work. And a TriStar, I'm walking away with it, and a TriStar employee asks if it was worth it, and I responded, absolutely not. Definitely the worst autograph experience of my life. I am happy I have it. I do have a story that goes with it, which is important to me, but no, it's still not worth it. I was never a huge Jabbar fan, and I'm even further removed as a fan now. And I do blame Jabbar. I blame his team, and I blame TriStar. Everyone was to blame, in my opinion. I know it had to be hard on him at his age to sign for 12 hours over 2 days. TriStar sold way too many tickets. Jabbar's team were rude, they were awful, and the way they had to go about grading his rookie card, and it was just awful for the people who had it. It slowed everything down, and Jabbar is an extension of his team. They act like that because that's what he wants from them, and just my opinion. But again, it wasn't worth it. But I do have one of the biggest stars autograph that played the sport that I love, so I am happy with that. Plus, you know, there's a lot of rumors that was Jabbar's last signing ever, so who knows? I met people who flew in all over for the country just for Jabbar and had the same experience. I didn't picture the national ending with me waiting 9 hours for an autograph, but it also ended with me getting a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar autograph, and that is kind of cool. But I pulled into my driveway at 10:30 that night, 6 hours after I'd hoped, and, you know, so much for plans. But this was my 4th national, and each one is special to me. I wouldn't say now that I am on YouTube it was so much better, but it was fantastic meeting the guys that I met, so that made it special. And if I can make my collection of cards and autographs with memories of how I got them, that's what I want. And people are like, what do you collect? And that's what I collect. I collect cards, autographs, and moments. I want to thank everyone I met and shook hands with, whether you're on YouTube or not. You made the week very special for me, and I am forever grateful, and having my wife and my kids was an extra bonus. Enjoy your collection.